Hello, I'm Lisa Green, one of the writers at BMC, and this video offers tips for using Azure Resource Manager with BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management to provision Azure Cloud services. Let's take a look at the overall process. First, install BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management 4.6.05 or later for the Azure artifacts. Then, register the Azure template provider as a proxy provider. Manage Azure Resource Manager credentials through BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management user mapping. Onboard resources for Azure. Map tenants to the logical data center. Set up service blueprints for custom resources. BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management 4.6.04 supported only template-based provisioning, but version 4.6.05 supports template-based and instance-based provisioning. Instance-based provisioning is now the preferred option. Create a service offering so that users can request the provisioning of an Azure service. Let's talk about some of these steps in a little more detail. When you register the Azure Resource Manager provider, you will register it as a proxy provider. From the BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management Administration Console, click the vertical Workspaces menu on the left side of the window and select Providers. Then select Custom. Click the Register icon. Select Azure RM Template Provider as the resource provider type. Complete the fields as necessary. If you set Enable Proxy to True so that BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management can access the Internet via a proxy host, complete the other proxy-related fields. If you set Enable Proxy to False, do not enter values into these proxy-related fields. In resource groups containing custom VM images, enter the names of the Azure Resource Manager groups that contain the custom virtual machine images you want to use. To enter multiple groups, enter a comma-separated list. In Publishers for public images, enter any public VM image publishers you want to include. To enter multiple publishers, enter a comma-separated list. Use this format. Publisher is required, and the other entries are optional. For example, if you want to enter 3 publishers, Canonical, Microsoft, and Red Hat, and have details for only the Canonical publisher, you could enter this. Lastly, for Tag Azure resources while provisioning, select True to include the tags that you might add through the ARM tags parameter, which you can learn about in another video. The tags are added to the Azure Resource Manager resource group and resources. By default, the CLM owner, CLM service offering instance, and CLM tenant tags are always added to the resource in Azure, whether you select true or false. Click Submit to finish registering the provider. To manage Azure provider users, you'll need to create a Service Principal account in Microsoft Azure Resource Manager. For more information, see the BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management documentation. Now, we are still looking at the custom provider type on the provider's workspace. I will select the Azure provider we registered. Click the Mapping User Account button. In the username field, enter the name of the user and press Enter. You can enter any text string. The username is a reference for your user mapping. This name is not used to create the user. Tenant ID, client ID, and other parameters are used instead. In the table under the username field, enter the values for the authentication parameters, which are determined when you set up the integration. Now, we need to onboard the Azure Logical Data Center. To onboard a Logical Data Center, select Resources from the Workspaces menu. Click Network Container. We choose this because a logical data center is similar to and at the same hierarchical level as a network container. Click Onboard Logical Data Center. Select the custom resource provider as the provider. Select the proxy provider you registered, and select the user account. From the available logical data centers list, select a logical data center entry and click Add. click Onboard. The next step is to map a tenant with a logical data center. Since we are already looking at network containers, we can simply select the logical data center to map with a tenant. Click the Manage Tenant Mappings button. Select a tenant name and click Add. Finally, click Save. Now, let's add an Azure resource set that uses templates to a service blueprint. I'll open the Service Designer workspace and click Create New Service Blueprint. Then click Custom Resource. Under Custom Resource Properties, specify information for the resource. In the Location field, specify the full path to the JSON file that contains the Azure template information. Make sure that the Azure Resource Manager service can resolve this URL. The URL can be on a public site, or it can be on an Azure storage location that is configured to require an access token to read the content. If you are using an Azure storage location, which is more secure, you can append one of these arguments to the URL so that BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management generates a static, long-living shared access signature SAS token. Use the SAS token argument for nested templates. The SAS token _template argument is not applicable for nested templates. For nested templates, if all referred templates are within the same storage account or container, use SAS token _storage or SAS token _container. For example, if your URL is this, add the argument to the end, like this. Now, let's add some parameters. I'll click Discover Parameters to upload the parameters from the JSON file that I entered in the Location field. We can see the parameters on the Parameters panel. The following parameters are available for use in the 4.6.05 version, and you should set them at the service definition level. You can learn more about these parameters in another video. For information about including network security groups in blueprints for Azure Resource Manager, see the BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management documentation. After we create the blueprint, we are ready to create options and then a service offering for Azure. This video does not go into detail, but I'll show you where to get started. Then, the BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management documentation and other videos can give you more information. To get started, I'll select Service Catalog from the Workspaces menu. To create options, click the Options Editor button. To create a service offering, click the New button. I hope this video has helped you understand how to use Azure Resource Manager to provision Azure Cloud Services with BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management. Thank you for watching.